Hello and welcome back to the Sketchpad Pod. I'm Alicia and today I'm going to be dressing up as Bob Ross for Halloween. I'm not actually going out anywhere for Halloween. I've done some pumpkin carving at home with my flat, which has been very nice, and they asked me what I would go as for Halloween and I didn't really have an idea until she said, why not go as Bob Ross? I have a little Bob Ross bobblehead, and this is going to be my point of reference for today. But I'm not just going to dress up as Bob Ross. No. Today I've decided that I'm going to take you through the life and legacy of Bob Ross. This is going to be a Halloween transformation / art history essay. Weird combination that nobody asked for, but you're getting it anyway. If you like the sound of that, keep watching and let's get into the video. So the first thing I think I need to think about when I am dressing up as Bob Ross is obviously the outfit. He himself went for a more plain attire. We have the classic blue shirt and denim jeans. I think I have something for. Bob Ross was born on the 29th of October 1942 in Florida, and he was born to his father Jack and his mother Ollie. Jack was a carpenter and Ollie was a waitress. They had a very happy relationship, but interestingly enough, they actually did end up getting divorced when Bob was only a year and a half old. But later on in his life, they would actually reunite and get remarried. He grew up in Orlando and he spent a lot of time in the outdoors. He loved animals, which obviously came into play later on in his career where he had many animals on his show. It was alleged that he may have had exotic pets growing up, such as armadillos and alligators. So in the 9th grade, which I believe is the second year of high school, but I'm not American, so correct me if I'm wrong, Bob Ross actually quit school and he started working for his dad doing carpentry, and this is how Bob unfortunately lost the tip of his finger. Ross cut off the top of his index finger. He was very self-conscious about this and he would try and hide it for the rest of his TV career. I'm dedicated to this Halloween costume, but I don't think I'm that dedicated, so I think all of my fingers are going to have to stay intact for that one. In the early 60s, at the age of 18, Bob joined the Air Force. He was soon posted to Alaska, where he would work for the next 20 years, and Bob really fell in love with the landscape and the snowy mountains in Alaska, and that is something that comes up a lot in his work later on in his career. Continuing on with my Bob Ross inspired look, I think we're going to need to tackle the facial area, because as you can see, I don't have a beard and I think my eyebrows need to be a bit bushier than this. What do you think, Bob? Eh? Alright, let's give it a go. So Bob would get married twice in his life, and his first marriage was to his wife Linda, and they would go on to have 2 sons. First is Bob Jr. and the second being Stephen. But unfortunately they divorced in 1981. His second marriage was to his wife Jane, and he met Jane out in Alaska while he was on the Air Force. They had 1 son who was called Morgan, and he would actually go on to become an accomplished artist himself. And Bob actually did very well in the Air Force, and he rose up the ranks to the rank of Master Sergeant. And it's quite interesting because you don't really think of Bob as a authoritarian figure when you see his TV program, but apparently he was quite harsh and would yell a lot on the job, and he even got given the nickname Bust 'em Up Bobby. But he really disliked the harsh character that he became in his job, and so I definitely think part of him always wanted to explore something different. And it was while he was on the force that he had his first painting lesson. His first painting lesson was in Anchorage, and he didn't really get on with the instructor very well because the instructor much preferred abstract painting, which was very popular at the time. But Bob really, all he wanted to do was learn how to paint landscapes and still lives and actually depict what he saw around him. Right, I'm gonna attempt a beard here. This might look a bit ridiculous, but we're gonna try. I don't know if this is a good idea. Bob learned the painting technique that would define his career, called the wet on wet technique, not from his painting classes, but actually from a TV show hosted by Bill Alexander. The show, The Magic of Oil Painting, ran from 1974 to 1982. The technique was where you painted one layer of oil paints on top of another without letting the first layer dry. This allowed for a much easier blending technique. It also meant that the painting was really quick to do and that he could complete a full painting within under an hour. Ross first painted alongside his military job, and then once he started making enough money, he left the military service and he returned to Florida so that he could become a Bill Alexander instructor, so that he could teach painting classes inspired by Bill Alexander's technique. What do we think? Is that good? Is that actually terrible? Do I actually want people to see me like this? I think this will have to do, you know? But this is actually how Bill ends up making his career. He meets a lovely lady called Annette and Annette's story is really sad. She unfortunately was in a really deep depression after losing her son in an accident. To try and cheer her up, her husband actually paid for Annette to go on one of Bill Alexander's painting courses. Little did they know that Bill had actually retired and that it would be Bob who was taking the class, but it had been paid, it was 5 days long, and so they went ahead with it anyway. And Annette was instantly charmed by Bob's personality. And after one of the classes, they asked Bob out to dinner, where they sat him down and they proposed this idea that they become Bob's managers. Meanwhile, what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and get more of the Bob Ross hairstyle. Now, fortunately, I do have curly hair, so that kind of helps. I think I'm going to trial like 2 hairstyles and decide which one I think is better. But yes, Annette and Bob teamed up to make this new duo. He left the Bill Alexander Painting Company and he went out on his own. And at first, Annette wanted to do classes, and so they promoted Bob in local newspapers, and Bob would host painting seminars at the local mall. Right, now this is hair option number 1. I don't think so. So they were doing these classes, but they found that Bob wasn't obviously a household name, and so they weren't getting much traction, and so they decided that they needed to get more advertisement and get Bob's name out there. They decided to go down to their local PBS station in Indiana. Now, for those who are not in America, PBS stands for a public broadcasting service. It's a not-for-profit organisation, and basically they tend to show a lot of educational content, but the great thing about it was that PBS could be shown in multiple different states. So they started off in Indiana. The guy at the station talks about how funny it was, this man with crazy hair and this little old lady coming into the station and asking for advertisement, but they said yes, and they advertised a little promo of Bob's painting workshops before and after Bill Alexander's show. And this might be a good point to mention that Bob did not actually have naturally curly hair. Bob was born with straight hair. During this period when he was trying to get his career off the ground, he decided to perm his hair because he thought it would save him money. But unfortunately he actually really ended up hating his hair, and he could never change it because it became part of his brand. Okay, I think that's as big as I'm gonna get my hair. That's pretty good, isn't it? After the success of the adverts, they went back to the TV broadcasting station and they asked whether they would be interested in producing a show with Bob, and they said yes to trialling the first season. And so they got him in to film one session, and he did it so quickly. So they said, well, how many paintings can you do? And he said, how many do you want? And so they ended up filming 13 episodes, which makes up the first season of Bob Ross's show, in 3 days. And the show was titled The Joy of Painting. Speaking of painting, I need a paint palette and a paintbrush, so let me grab those. Voila! The production of the show was really cheap and easy to do. All he needed was his paints. He had a little curtain behind him and just 2 cameras set up, one to focus on Bob and one to focus on the painting. But I think the small, intimate nature of the show was something that allowed people to really see Bob's personality and to be drawn in by his calming demeanour and voice. The Joy of Painting would eventually be carried out over 275 stations, and he made over 400 episodes in his lifetime. All of Bob's paintings were made in real time with no edits, as he wanted everyone to see how easy and quickly they could paint. He really wanted art to be accessible to everyone. Sadly, his wife Jane died from cancer in 1993. In 1994, Ross was diagnosed with lymphoma, a rare form of cancer. He kept his diagnosis quiet from the public and only told friends and family. He reportedly painted right up until the end, and he died in 1995 at the age of 52. His last public appearance was on a kids' TV show, which had to be recorded at his house because he was too sick to travel. Bob Ross created an estimate of 30,000 paintings in his career, which is mind-boggling. Many of those appeared on the show and were then donated to PBS stations, which were auctioned off to help the station keep going and to support different charities. His son Stephen appeared on the show several times, and as I previously said, his son Morgan continued as an artist, so his artistic career does live on through his sons. And clearly Bob Ross has left a legacy on Today. He's now featured on YouTube very heavily, and on Netflix there are tons of videos of people following his tutorials. Although normally people said that they wouldn't paint when they watched his videos, just really enjoyed the sound of his voice and watching his positive and bubbly personality. He has definitely become a pop cultural icon, especially for the younger generation that are only just getting to start to watch him, and I definitely think he is going to be an important figure for many years to come. Thank you very much for watching. All of the articles and podcasts and documentaries that I watch will be in the description below. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you enjoyed, and me and Bob Ross wish you all the best. Can't wait to see you in the next video. Bye!